Hi, geometry students. It's Miss Ools. I just want to say I'm here in the classroom and I miss you guys. I miss seeing you. I miss seeing your faces. I wish that you were here, but we're going to do the best that we can under these circumstances. Um, I think what happened is that everybody uh, that's in geometry picked up a packet or had a packet delivered to them. And so I'm going to go over the things that are in the packet. These are the things that you're going to need to be ready for Algebra 2 whenever school starts in the fall. So, we're just going to review it, stuff that you learned in Algebra 1. And so I'm going to go over some examples with you that are like what's in your packet, and you only have 10 problems for this week. We're trying to keep it low stress, low pressure. So if you want credit, the way that grades are going to work is that whatever you turn in can only help your grade. Whatever grade you had on the last day of school before spring break is the grade that you'll keep unless you decide to turn work in for credit. And the way you can turn work into me is by just taking a screenshot of it, take a picture of your work, and then either email it to me. You can go onto the school webpage and find my email there, or I added some of you on Facebook that I could find, and you can send it to me there on Messenger or whatever. Or if you need to, contact me and you can send it to me through text over the phone. Okay, but somehow send me a picture of your work by Friday night. So this is Monday. You have until Friday night to have that paper done, and send me pictures of the front and the back by Friday night. And then you'll get credit for doing it. It won't hurt your grade. It will only raise your grade. So some of you that were needing to raise your grade by the end of the year, this is a really good way that you can do it. Okay, so write down what I write down. Just have a pencil and paper. Write down what I write down. You can pause me. You can rewind me. Please don't mute me. But I'm going to go over some examples of everything that you have in your packet. So hopefully that'll help you through it. The first part I think should be really easy for you. It just asks you to remember how to graph points in a plane. And so just remember, this is the x-axis. The one that goes horizontal is the x. The one that goes vertical is the y. An ordered pair is, do we go on this side? X, comma, y. Okay, and so the first number that's given to you in an ordered pair is where you go along the x-axis. The second number is where you go along the y-axis. I know you guys know how to do this. Let's plot these real quick. 3, 1, negative 1, 4, 0, 2, 2, negative 3, and negative 3, negative 1. So 3, 1, we always start at the origin in the middle. We go over positive 3 on the x and positive 1 on the y. So we've got 3, 1. Negative 1, 4. We start back at the origin. We go negative 1 on the x and then 4 on the y. So there's negative 1, 4. 0, 2. So 0 means that we're not going to move. 0 in the x-coordinate means we're not going to move along the x-axis. We're only going to move 2 on the y. So our point will stay right there. Okay. 2, negative 3 means we're going to go over 2 and then down 3. So 2, negative 3 is there. And negative 3, negative 1, 1, 2, 3, back 3, down 1, negative 3, negative 1. Easy, right? Okay, I'm going to pause you while I get to next. Okay, your next question that you have there on your packet is asking you to graph lines. And if you remember, we'll talk first about graphing horizontal and vertical lines. If you get an equation that looks like this, that just says x equals 3, or something that just says y equals negative 2, okay, that's your clue that you're going to end up with a line that is just a horizontal line or a vertical line. The only thing that's tricky is a lot of times kids think x equals 3 is going to run along the x-axis, and it's not. It's actually opposite of what you think. So the way you can think of it is find 3 on the x, go to x equals 3, 1, 2, 3. So here's 3 on the x-axis. Now what you have to remember is that x is always 3. So no matter where you're at on the y-axis, x is going to be 3. So if you're up here, x is 3. If you're here, x is 3. X is 3. No matter where you're at, x is always 3. So that actually ends up making a vertical line. Okay? So it's opposite of what you sometimes think. It's going to be perpendicular to the x-axis. Okay? So that one is x equals 3. So y equals -2 is the same thing, except you're going to find -2 on the y-axis. Start by marking -2 on the y-axis. And just remember that y is always -2. So you're always going to be down 2. You're always going to be at -2 on the y-axis. So you end up with a line that's horizontal for y equals -2. Okay, so you might want to pause that. You might want to take a picture of it just so it can help you whenever you're doing your assignment. Okay, so the next thing that you're being asked to review on your sheet is how to graph a line in slope-intercept form. And if you remember from algebra, slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. Write this down somewhere in your notes. And m is the slope, and the plus b part is the y-intercept. Okay, the y-intercept is exactly what it sounds like. It's where it's going to cross the y-axis. Okay, so you're looking here at the end. The plus b part hanging out on the end is going to tell you where the y-intercept is. And then this part sitting right in front of the x, the coefficient sitting right in front of the x, is going to tell you what the slope is. So I'm going to work through a couple examples for you. Let's graph the line y equals 1/2 x minus 4. Okay, so the first thing, your starting point is always going to be your y-intercept. So you always want to look here. If you're certain that it's in slope-intercept form, you want to look here on the end, and we have a -4. We have a -4 here on the end. So that means that our y-intercept is going to be at -4. So we're going to start on the y-axis. We're going to go down 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm going to mark the y-intercept at -4. Okay, then the next thing that I need to look at is the slope, which I see is 1/2. And remember, slope is rise over run. Okay, rise means how much you go up or down. Run means how much you go side to side. So I'm going to go to my y-intercept that I already marked, and I'm going to rise 1 and run 2. Okay, this should be familiar to you. So rise 1, run 2, rise 1, run 2, rise 1, run 2. And then also remember, this is a positive slope, which he's skiing uphill, he's going uphill. We've got a positive slope. If I want to find the points that fall over here, I know that 2 negatives, a negative over a negative, also makes a positive. So if I want to rise -1, I can, but then I also have to run -2. I have to make my rise and my run negative. So I can go down, down 1 and back 2. And then I end up with points in a line. Make sure your line, remember lines go on forever and ever, so they have arrows on the end. Okay, so there's y equals 1/2 x minus 4. We'll do one more real quick. Y equals -2/3 x minus 1. So remember, the first thing that you want, where you always want to start, is at the y-intercept. So I look here, hanging out on the end is a -1. So I know that I'm going to start my line at -1. I'm going to put my first point on the y-axis at -1. And then I look here to find the slope, and I've got -2/3, which means I could have -2/3, 2 over -3. Both of those mean the same thing. Okay, so either your rise or your run is going to be negative. So let's start with -2, rise -2, run +3. So -2, +3, -2, down 2, 1, 2, 3, down 2, 1, 2, 3. Or I could go +2 And then I'd have to make my run -3, or my, yeah. So up +2 and back -3. And then I end up with all these points on a line. Okay, so remember, start at your y-intercept and then look for your slope, and that tells you how much to rise and how much to run. Okay, the next part of your packet gives you a slope and gives you a y-intercept and just asks you to write the equation. So that should in slope-intercept form. And remember, slope-intercept form we wrote down is y equals mx plus b. So we're just going to fill in the parts. So we've got y equals, the m is the slope, so -2x plus b. The y-intercept is -6. So we're going to have -6. Super easy, right? Same thing here. We're going to write it into slope-intercept form. So y equals 2/3 x plus b would be +5. Easy. Okay, so we're going to go through one more problem. This is problem number 5 on your worksheet, and it gives you a slope, and it asks you to write an equation for a line that has a slope of such and such and passes through a point of such and such. So just remember, whenever you have, this is another common formula that you need to memorize, point slope formula. So if they're giving you a point and giving you a slope, then the formula that you're going to need to start with would be point slope formula. And go ahead and pause real quick and write this down. And this right here is the example that we're going to do. Okay, and we're just going to fill in the parts of this equation. So y minus y1. So I'm going to start with y minus, and y1 that they're giving us is a 1. So y minus 1 equals m, which the slope is 3, times x minus x1. Now you have to remember, this is saying x minus -5. Okay, and x minus -5, the two negatives are going to make it a positive. So it's actually going to be x plus 5, because that looked like x minus -5 is what it would have looked like, which is why I wrote it as x plus 5. Okay, so don't let that trip you up. Once I have it like this, I'm going to simplify it. Y minus 1 equals, use the distributive property, 3x plus 15. They want it written in slope-intercept form, so that means that I'm going to have to get the y alone, which will be pretty simple here. To get the y alone, all I have to do is add 1 to get rid of it. So I end up with y equals 3x plus 16. Now it's in the y equals mx plus b, the slope-intercept form. Okay, and that's what your question is asking for, is asking for you to write it into slope-intercept form. So that's what your final answer will look like. I'll do one more example with you real quick on that, because I know that one was a little bit trickier. So let's say that they give you a slope is -2, and they tell you that it passes through a point of -8 and 6. Okay, so if we have a point and we have a slope, we're going to use point slope formula. So y minus y1. Well, my y is 6, so I'm going to use y minus 6 equals m. My slope that they've given me is -2. -2 times x minus x1. Well, the x1 is a -8, and I have to remember that rule. Subtracting a negative is going to actually make it add. So x plus 8. Okay, and I use the distributive property. So I've got -2x minus 16. I'm trying to go fast so my videos don't get too long. If I'm going too fast for you, pause. That's the good thing about this. You can pause me. So remember, I want to get the y alone because I want it to be y equals mx plus b. So I'm going to add this 6 to get rid of it over here. And I get y equals -2x minus 10. Okay, and now it's in slope-intercept form, so I'm going to go ahead and circle it and call it good. Okay, so this was number 1 through 5 on your paper. So go ahead and work through 1 through 5. I'll give you another video on Wednesday for problems 6 through 10, and I'll go over those with you. Remember, if you want credit for your work, I need you to send me a picture of it by Friday night. So finish 1 through 5. We'll go over 6 through 10 or 9 on Wednesday, and then you'll have everything finished and turned in by Friday. Bye, guys. I miss you.